Ian Ward took a step toward the green-haired girl, his lips already forming the first phrase about neo-Baroque, carefully prompted by the membrane. And in that microsecond, the world popped. It wasn't an explosion, rather it looked as if all the colors had been instantly washed off a wet canvas. The soft green halo above the girl's head vanished. The golden threads of routes on the asphalt disappeared. The floating neon gardens that hovered between Geneva's skyscrapers evaporated, exposing gray-pitted concrete covered in years of dust. The walls of the buildings, which just a second ago had seemed like shining masterpieces of architecture, turned out to be blank boxes with dirty streaks from air conditioners. But the emptiness inside his skull was more terrifying. The MNEMOSYNE-57 plate on Ian's temple went instantly cold. The physical sensation of warmth was replaced by an icy numbness. And along with that warmth, everything left his mind. Ian froze, his mouth half open. Just a second ago, he knew quantum chromodynamics. He tasted it. He manipulated multi-dimensional nodes of equations. Now he tried to recall at least one formula. And hit a blank, dark wall. The symbols he had just seen crumbled into dust. He remembered that he was a physicist, but he couldn't remember what physics studied. This was phantom knowledge syndrome, a mental amputation. Ian's brain frantically tried to feel for non-existent information channels, like an amputee trying to move a missing arm. The girl in front of him stopped. In the natural, dull light of a cloudy evening, her green hair looked faded and dirty. She stared at Ian with wide, terror-filled eyes. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Without the text prompters of the exocortex, without the automatic selection of intonations, she simply did not know how to start a conversation with a stranger. They stood in the middle of the street. Two mental cripples, suddenly stripped of their crutches. Around them, Geneva was plunging into primal chaos. People stopped dead in the middle of the sidewalks. Some fell to their knees, clutching their heads in their hands, as if hoping to physically hold onto the slipping masses of memory. From above, on the overpasses, came the deafening screech of crushing metal automated drones, deprived of the weave's coordination, froze in place. But those rare cars with semi-manual control slammed into them at full speed. "Help," wheezed a man in an expensive business suit, sitting on the steps of the academy. His membrane no longer broadcast his blood sugar levels or dosed his insulin. His body, which had forgotten how to regulate its own functions without AI biochemical prompts, instantly responded with a panic attack. Sinily. "Someone, call the service." But the service no longer existed, Kulsest. Not a single phone. Not a single terminal worked. The planet's communication network, tied to Nemotech quantum cores, had turned into a pile of dead silicon. Ian ran. He was driven not by reason, but by ancient, animal fear. He didn't know where to run. His personal navigator was dead, and his generation had never been taught to read regular paper maps or navigate by the sun. He rushed through the gray, identical streets, which looked like a sinister labyrinth without the digital makeup of augmented reality. He saw people crowding at the entrance to a supermarket, unsuccessfully trying to open the automatic glass doors. They pushed them, pounded them with their fists. But it occurred to no one to just pull the handle or smash the glass. The algorithm of everyday behavior in their heads did not account for such barbaric actions. A society locked within the framework of perfect comfort proved absolutely helpless before a closed door. In a semi-basement on the outskirts of the city, Lisa lay on the floor, curled up in pain. Her exocortex, cut off from the weave, had gone into an emergency cyclic reboot mode. Every few seconds, chaotic impulses were broadcast into her brain. Fragments of old interfaces, white noise, and sharp flashes of light.
"Grandpa, it hurts. Turn it off. Please turn it off!"
She screamed, scratching her fingernails against her temple, under which the plate was implanted. Christian Barr bustled around her. There was no panic on his face, only the deep, endless grief of a man who had foreseen this day his whole life.
"Hang in there, my little one. Hang in there,"
he whispered, pressing a wet towel to her head.
"It's feedback. Your brain is trying to take back control of the receptors. Don't fight it. Don't try to remember what isn't there."
He quickly walked over to an old wardrobe standing in the corner of the basement. Christian was ready. In a world where everything was stored on cloud servers, he collected physical media. He opened a secret door behind which stood a 2020s-era medical case, complete with real syringes, ampoules, and scalpels. And, most importantly, on the shelves stood neat rows of books, first aid manuals, anatomy atlases, tables of chemical elements, and mathematics textbooks.
Christian!
A faint voice came from the door. Ian Ward stood on the threshold of the basement. His clothes were torn, his face stained with soot from a drone that had caught fire in the street. He had stumbled upon this basement by chance, guided only by the fact that, here, unlike the rest of the city, a dim, flickering yellow light was burning. The light of a real kerosene lamp.
Help! I don't remember anything. I don't know who I am.
The old man looked at the young man. The magnitude of the catastrophe was reflected in his eyes. Ian wasn't crazy. He was a typical representative of the MNEMOSYNE generation. Deprived of the network, these people lost more than just internet access. They lost their cognitive identity.
Come in, son. Welcome to the real world. Here you'll have to learn everything all over again. Starting with how to breathe without a machine's permission.
2 hours later, Lisa fell quiet. The implant on her temple had finally burned out, leaving behind only a dull, throbbing ache and a deep sense of emptiness. She sat by the wall, hugging her knees, staring blankly at the flame of the kerosene lamp. Ian sat at the oak table. Before him lay a book opened by Christian. A simple, 5th grade school arithmetic textbook. Ian stared at the columns of numbers and tried to understand what the plus sign meant. His biological brain, unused to independent work, resisted desperately, causing a headache.
It's called addition, Ian.
Christian explained gently, pointing his finger at the page.
1 + 1 = 2. You don't need to query the weave to know that. Your own mind is capable of calculating it. Try it.
Ian closed his eyes tightly. He tried to imagine 2 points coming together. It took superhuman effort, as if he were trying to lift a 100-kilogram barbell with untrained hands.
2.
He said hoarsely. Beads of sweat broke out on his forehead.
It's incredibly hard. Why does it hurt so much?
Because your synapses have been asleep for 30 years. The membrane turned you into mental invalids. You thought you were evolving, but in reality, you just handed over the right to think to a private corporation, and now the plug has been pulled.
Christian replied. The old man walked over to the basement window, which looked out at street level. It was dark outside. Geneva, stripped of electricity and augmented reality, had plunged into the darkness of the Middle Ages. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. These were rare mechanical security systems not connected to the network. The cries of looters and the weeping of lost people could be heard.
The weave didn't just shut down, it burned out. Information overload destroyed the cores under the Alps. Those who survive the coming weeks will face a choice: learn to think for themselves, or starve to death next to warehouses they can't open.
Christian said softly, looking into the darkness. He turned to Ian and Lisa. In his hands was an old army compass with a phosphor needle and a paper map of Switzerland.
We can't stay here. Famine and epidemics will start in the city soon. We will go south, toward the mountains. There are old hydroelectric plants and communities of those who lived without implants. But first...
Christian placed a blank sheet of paper and a simple graphite pencil on the table in front of Ian.
Write your name, Ian. Yourself. With your own hand. Remember the shapes of the letters. This is your first step toward becoming human again.
Ian took the pencil. His fingers trembled, unaccustomed to physical writing. He pressed the lead to the paper, and in the silence of the basement, a soft, scratching sound rang out. The first sound of a new, difficult, and entirely analog era of humanity.